I'll throw something.
Okay, that's a real f***ing person. Who's there? Whoa! 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 Whoa!
Вот этот звук только что был раза в 2 сильнее.
Most camping encounters don't start with danger. They start with silence until something feels off. From hearing distant human-like screams deep inside a forest with no clear source, to coming face to face with a jaguar that may still be watching from the shadows. So when the night shifts and you realize you might not be alone out there, do you stay calm and wait it out, or leave before it turns into something worse? This camping encounter is taken from the YouTube channel Paranormal Discovery, where Lomar records his outdoor experiences, including camping trips into remote and allegedly haunted forests, along with explorations of abandoned places. On October 23, 2025, Lomar set out on another solo trip, traveling deep into Freetown State Forest, a location long associated with stories of satanic rituals, unexplained disappearances, and unusual activity. What began as a routine overnight stay gradually developed into a deeply unsettling camping encounter in one of the region's most mysterious forests.
Right now I'm actually in the Freetown State Forest again, and instead of actually going to the Assonet Ledge, I'm actually going to be going to a completely different area. What the hell was that? Yo, something's being like thrown. Anyways, it's more of the people and the lunatics within the Bridgewater Triangle that I've actually encountered than the bears or the Bigfoots or the Pukwudgies and the cryptids. Like, the people are actually weird in these forests. So yeah, we're gonna take a drive. Yeah, my point exactly. I don't know what's happening right now, but I'm gonna get going.
As he arrived near the forest entrance, Lomar spotted two men standing nearby. They seemed suspicious, though he chose not to dwell on them. Even so, one concern lingered in his mind. He hoped he would not come across anyone dangerous out there. During a previous visit to this same forest, he had encountered a disturbed individual who ended up chasing him through the woods, turning that earlier trip into a frightening escape. With that memory still present, he drove farther toward his chosen campsite and began hiking deeper into the forest with his gear on his back. After reaching the spot he had selected for the night, Lomar set up his tent within the quiet shadow-covered woods. At first everything felt calm, but the silence was suddenly broken.
There we go. At least I got a little bit more leverage. It'll be at least a little bit of protection for me at least. Check the weather, seemed to be good, but it kind of rained the first 2 days that I got here. So at least if I have this and it's up, if it rains, then we can be underneath it and the video can technically be on. Yeah, I've never... What? Hello? Thought I actually heard something like in there. I'm like tripping out right now. Okay.
A chilling sound echoed through the trees, resembling a distant crying voice that sounded strained and almost human. The sound was close enough to send a cold shiver down his spine. He stopped moving and listened as the unsettling noise slowly faded back into the darkness. Moments later, more strange and unexplained sounds began echoing throughout the woods. The uneasy feeling around him intensified. Attempting to explain the noise as wildlife, he continued preparing his campsite, setting up a small table for dinner, and placing his spirit talker nearby.
Run now.
This was getting sketch. I'm eating
I
noodles.
am Desdemona. I do not understand.
I was gonna say, I'm eating noodles in the Bridgewater Triangle right now. I feel very vulnerable. All right.
The noise was him.
Okay, I'm getting a little confused here.
Thank you for listening. I'll throw something.
Guys, what the f is that? Whoa, 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 whoa. Guys, someone's down that path. Is someone getting murdered right now? Oh my god, I think someone's actually getting murdered. I'm like genuinely curious right now. I hope someone's not actually getting murdered. That sounded like someone in help.
The crying sound briefly returned, followed by a series of heavy knocking noises echoing through the forest as if something or someone was striking wood with full force. It did not resemble any animal sound Lomar had heard before. As he tried to determine where the knocking was coming from, a low, agonizing moan rose from the darkness. The voice sounded male raw, with pain echoing in a tortured tone that sent chills down his spine. For a moment, Lomar considered the possibility that someone might actually need help, but just as suddenly as the sounds appeared, they faded away again. He stood still, listening carefully, his heart racing as he tried to understand who or what might be somewhere out there in the forest that night. The earlier message from the spirit talker suddenly seemed more significant. It had spoken the name Desdemona, a word associated with ill-fated death, along with an urgent warning. Lomar began to question whether the message had truly been random. Although uneasy, he tried to remain composed and continued with his camping.
I don't want to rush down there right now, just in case that's like a trap. But I will go and check that out. Like, if someone needs help, then I'm gonna go down there. Okay, there's hooting and whooping. I'm like so curious now, like what if there's someone in need of help? They're just like luring me in. Who's down there? I just saw someone. Okay, that's a real fucking person. Who's there? I'm armed. I'm carrying. Who are you? I'm armed and I'm not playing around. If you attack me, I'm gonna attack you back in self-defense. No fucking way. What is going on?
But the uncertainty of sharing the forest with something unknown triggered a growing sense of fear. His heart began beating faster with each passing moment. Soon the strange noises returned again, this time a mixture of moaning voices and whooping sounds echoing through the trees. Concerned that someone might genuinely be in trouble, he cautiously moved toward the direction of the sounds. That was when he noticed something moving between the trees in the distance. It appeared to be a dark shadow shifting through the forest. Although it was not captured on camera, Lomar was convinced he had seen a figure. As he stepped closer, a loud impact struck a nearby tree, causing it to shake violently. His anxiety surged. Every instinct told him he was being watched.
Now I'm tripping, like what if that wasn't a person? But that was definitely something. Whoa! 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 Oh! Who's there? Look, I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting. I'm like nervous. I'm really nervous right now. Hello? Oh. Okay. I'm gonna pack up. Something's here.
While scanning the area where he had sensed the presence earlier, Sudden, agonizing screams erupted from the same direction. These sounded like clear human voices, mostly male, echoing just beyond the reach of his flashlight. Panic surged through him, and he ran back to his campsite. He quickly decided to leave the forest and retreat to his van, but the voices continued echoing somewhere outside his tent. Lomar abandoned his plan to continue exploring, packed his gear, and left the forest behind. He didn't stay to find out who or what had been out there. Trusting his instincts, he escaped the forest unharmed, though the memory of the camping encounter remained with him. The forest itself carries a dark reputation filled with stories of hauntings and unsettling legends. When strange voices echo through a dark forest and no clear source can be found, the safest choice may simply be to leave. But if you were alone in the woods and heard someone screaming in the distance, would you try to help? Or would you walk away before the situation became something far worse? A video shared on the YouTube channel Indiana Jones Van Life UK shows how quickly a peaceful night on the road can shift into a disturbing camping encounter. The footage captures what can happen when sleeping in a van takes an unexpected turn. Planning to visit his son the next day, the traveler drove his small camper across the country. With every official campsite in the area already full, he was left with no option but to quietly park along a street for the night. After finding his first 2 parking spots unavailable, he eventually chose a third location. It was a dark and quiet area near the beach. Aware that parking overnight in an unfamiliar place can sometimes be risky, he carefully covered the windows, turned off the lights, and got into bed, hoping to remain unnoticed for a short time. At first, everything stayed completely still, but before long, the uneasy reality of sleeping alone in a dark, unfamiliar place began to set in.
I think they're trying the doors. Try locking it again, and that's worse. I can hear the van going, yeah.
Campers are often targeted because thieves assume there may be valuable gear or money inside.
I think they're gone. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Yeah, look, see? Look, see, nobody is around. I want to get back into bed. I don't want anybody to know I'm here.
He briefly shined a light out the window, but whoever had been outside had already vanished into the darkness. Hoping the person had left, he returned to bed and remained as quiet as possible so no one would realize he was inside the van. Only minutes later, the situation escalated.
I think they're back. Right, that's it. I'm moving spots.
The entire vehicle suddenly started shaking as someone began pushing and rocking the back of the van. Realizing the person had returned and was now trying harder to get inside, he decided it was no longer safe to stay. He quickly drove away and eventually reached a safer location in the woods, where he could spend the rest of the night. Fortunately, he escaped without harm, and the next day he was able to enjoy a peaceful visit to the zoo with his son. Even so, the mystery was never solved. He never found out who had tried to break into his van in the darkness. Encounters like this show how quickly a quiet trip can turn into a frightening camping encounter when traveling alone. Sometimes leaving immediately is the safest choice. If you heard someone testing the locks of your van in the middle of the night, what would you do? In a quiet forest, even the smallest sound can carry weight. A single crack of a branch or a distant movement can quickly turn a calm moment into a tense camping encounter. Kenny is an outdoor enthusiast and the creator behind the YouTube channel Kenny of All Trades, known for sharing raw footage of off-grid camping encounters in remote forests. Over the years, he has documented solo trips where he drives his truck camper deep into isolated areas, often far from any signal or nearby help, making each camping encounter more unpredictable. In September 2024, he traveled to an unnamed wooded area in Minnesota for a solo camping encounter with only his dog. The first few hours of the trip went smoothly as he cooked dinner over an open fire. But once the sun went down, the atmosphere began to change. Trying to figure out what was happening, he grabbed his flashlight and walked down a dark dirt trail. After that, he noticed a sudden flash of light deep in the trees.
I thought I just saw a flash. Man, all kinds of noises. That flash could have been a reflector or something.
In such a remote location, a random reflection can be a warning sign. Some believe it could have come from a trail camera or the lens of binoculars, suggesting that someone might have been watching from the darkness. Not wanting to take the risk, he returned to the safety of his locked camper. But the camping encounter didn't end there.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm laying in bed
and it sounds like something is being thrown at the camper. Must be acorns dropping. It's like 3 a.m. I gotta go to bed. See what I'm talking about? When your mind starts playing tricks on you, these nights get really long.
Later in the night, loud impacts struck the outside of the vehicle. He tried to explain it as acorns falling, but the heavy sounds felt too deliberate to ignore. Choosing caution, he stayed inside until morning. He was able to leave the forest safely the next day, but the mystery behind that camping encounter remained unresolved. When moments like this happen far from help, even small details can feel significant. If you experienced a camping encounter like this alone in the woods, would you stay and investigate or leave before the situation escalated further? This camping encounter is taken from the channel Strange Days Diaries, a solo van life vlog that captures everyday moments on the road inside a 1990s Chevy Astro van. The creator showcases peaceful coastal camps, long drives, daily habits, and genuine reflections on solo travel. On April 30th of 2024, in a coastal region of California, she starts her day by running errands before heading toward one of her go-to viewpoints to unwind, prepare breakfast, and take in the surroundings. At first, everything feels quiet and familiar, much like many solo camping trips she's experienced before. However, while passing a nearby McDonald's, she briefly locks eyes with a man exiting the parking lot. Not long after, she begins to notice what seems to be the same vehicle trailing her along the quiet road, leading to her usual parking area. This moment changes the atmosphere, shifting what began as a normal outing into a more unsettling camping encounter.
As I pull up to this spot, I pass by a McDonald's. I made eye contact with somebody who was pulling out of the McDonald's. I didn't mean to. And I saw him just make eye contact with me and zoom behind me and follow me all the way up here.
When she arrives at the dead-end spot and parks, the blue car pulls in behind and stops nearby. The driver appears to glance toward her van briefly before eventually driving off. Even though the interaction is short, it leaves behind a lingering sense of unease, especially given how isolated the location is.
So something I noticed as I'm cooking is the creepy guy in the blue car is back. So that sucks. I hope that it's nothing and that I'm just being really sensitive, but I feel like it's something.
As time goes on, she realizes the man has stayed in the area throughout her morning routine. At certain moments, his hand appears raised, making her question whether he might be holding something or possibly recording in her direction.
And number two, I am still a little sketched out by that guy that followed me earlier. It wasn't anything insane, obviously, but I don't know if he's still lurking around or if he came back and I didn't notice, that kind of thing. And I just don't feel the comfiest leaving my van.
As the day winds down, she decides to leave earlier than she originally planned, choosing to trust her instincts rather than wait to see what could happen next. Even though nothing directly escalates the situation, highlights how traveling alone in remote places can quickly turn into moments where awareness is essential. When something feels off without a clear explanation, it raises a simple question. If you were in that camping encounter, would you stay and wait or leave before it became something worse? This footage comes from the channel Romany Pirates, a UK-based van life and travel vlog that follows road trips across Britain in a camper van. The couple visits historic landmarks, coastal areas, countryside walks, and unusual destinations, often capturing genuine moments from life on the road. On January 31st, 2023, at Holy Island Lindisfarne in Northumberland, United Kingdom.
She loves it on the sand, absolutely loves it.
Yeah, I like it better here in winter than summer. We were just sort of passing through.
Very busy, wasn't it?
And it were absolutely rammed. And now it's just totally peaceful. It's a little library. Take a book, share a book. So you take a book and leave a book. Unfortunately, I've not got a book to leave.
They spend the day exploring the island before heading back to their van to relax and eat lunch. Because it is winter, the area feels unusually quiet. While sitting inside the van preparing food, they begin to realize they may have stayed longer than planned. Concern starts to build that the tide may already be coming back across the causeway, the only road connecting the island to the mainland. In situations like this, even a small delay can quickly turn into a dangerous camping encounter.
What I'm gonna do, and I've left it till last minute, so I'm really starting to panic in case we get stuck. Oh jeez. Keep going, just keep going, just keep, oh my god. Oh dearie me. Just keep going, keep driving quickly. Not too fast. Oh.
They quickly pack up and make their way toward the crossing. When they reach the causeway, water is already flowing across sections of the road. Reese carefully drives through the flooded areas while Emma encourages him to keep moving forward.
If we'd have been literally 20 seconds, then we wouldn't. I don't know what.
Because obviously the road, you don't think about it, but the road's not totally flat. It's got dips in it, so certain areas of it are going to fill up quicker than other areas.
The Coast Guard come if you do get stuck. You basically lost your vehicle. The Coast Guard comes and gets you with a helicopter. It's serious.
Because when we hit the water on that last bit, it was like hitting a wall. So that's how deep it was at that point. You know, it was really deep, and
the van moves through the shallow water as the tide continues rising behind them. After reaching the mainland safely, Reese walks back to show how quickly the conditions are changing. Within minutes, the road they had just crossed is already being covered by the sea, showing how fast the tide can take over. Once everything settles, some vehicles have been stranded on this road and require Coast Guard rescue when the sea cuts off the route. The experience leaves them shaken but unharmed, a clear reminder that even calm environments can turn into a camping encounter when conditions shift without warning. Sometimes it's not about what you notice, but how quickly things change. If you were in that situation and saw the water rising behind you, would you keep going or turn back before it was too late? The YouTube channel Jaguar is run by a Russian creator who shares videos about his experiences deep within the Russian taiga. His content centers on exploring remote forest cabins, building shelters, and documenting wilderness survival in isolated parts of the taiga. In this particular video, which was uploaded on March 2nd, 2024, he set out to do what he often does during his trips into the forest, spend the night alone in a remote wooden hut, far from civilization. But as the day gradually came to an end, something happened that made him begin to feel as though he might not be entirely alone in the woods.
Здравствуй, избушка. Крыша не провалилась. Это уже радует. Значит, заночуем сегодня.
He arrived at the forest cabin and unloaded his gear before heading to a nearby frozen lake to try ice fishing. The quiet taiga landscape around the hut was still, and the frozen lake provided enough fish to last him through the night. After catching what he needed, he returned to the small hut and began preparing the fish for his meal.
Сковорода еще неровно стоит. Точнее, печка.
Once he finished eating, he stayed inside the cabin, resting near the stove. It was then that he began to hear unusual sounds.
Хотя печку буду подтапливать ночью. Дрова есть теперь, дров не жалко. Дрова свои. Вот этот звук только что был раза в 2 сильнее.
At one point, the noise seemed like something moving along the wooden planks outside the hut. However, when he checked outside, there was no one there. He did not seem frightened, likely because he is accustomed to spending nights alone in remote survival shelters. But for someone unfamiliar with the wilderness, the experience would likely have felt far more unsettling. If you were spending the night alone in a remote cabin deep in the taiga, and suddenly heard footsteps on the wooden boards outside, would you assume it was just the cabin reacting to the cold? Or would you begin to wonder if something was actually moving around in the darkness? In this particular video, what was meant to be a simple fishing and camping trip in a forested river setting took an unexpected turn. Felipe Packer is a Brazilian YouTube channel centered on fishing adventures where a group of friends travels to remote rivers and lakes to catch large fish and spend time outdoors together. Most of their content focuses on fishing trips, camping, and enjoying nature. The video was uploaded on February 6, 2024. The group organized a camping trip near a river deep within the forest, which appeared to be the perfect place to relax and spend time together. Their plan was simple. During the day, they would fish along the river and later cook their catch at the campsite that night. The trip started exactly as expected.
Não, ele atacou sim, Thiago. Atacou? Tá seguro, velho! Olha a quantidade de peixinho que tem aqui ao redor dele. Tá pegando com ele?
Everything seemed to go in their favor from the beginning. They started catching fish one after another, with each one appearing bigger than the last. The consistent fishing action kept their attention fixed on the water for hours. Because of this, they barely noticed the sky slowly darkening as evening approached. That was when the atmosphere began to shift. After catching a particularly large fish, the group decided it was time to head back to their campsite. But as they moved along the riverbank, they suddenly saw something standing directly in their path.
Aqui, olha, o Thiago acabou de ver um bicho pulando ali na água. Ele tá pedindo a lanterna aqui pra gente ver o que é. Pode ser onça.
Pega a arma, louco. Onça, ela pula dentro da canoa.
Se for onça, ela pula dentro da canoa mesmo. Não, pô. Eu ouvi o barulho pra cá, Thiago.
Brilhando ali o olho.
Tá brilhando lá. É uma onça. É uma onça, Vai lá, vai lá. Deixa eu sair daqui, senão eu vou cair. É uma onça. Alguma coisa tá fugindo dela. Pra tua esquerda, Leandro.
Caralho, não chega muito perto, mano.
Bem aí, ó. Tava aí nesse clarão aí. Foca bem ali, Thiago. Eu vi um negócio ali nos...
Deu pra ver a silhueta.
Deu pra ver, parecia um cachorro gigante.
Leandro, puxa a porra pra fora.
Tu viu que ela parou assim e olhou pra trás? Ela foi lá daquele lado ali, foi?
Eu escutei barulho de água. Alguma coisa caindo na água. Eu tô achando que alguma coisa fugiu dela. Se seguir essa linha aqui, vai dar no acampamento, não dá? Eu acho que é a mesma ilha que...
At the edge of the river, they came face to face with a jaguar. The animal was likely hunting. However, its prey had escaped, possibly due to the sudden presence of Felipe and his friends. For a brief moment, the jaguar stared straight at them before slowly backing away into the forest. Encounters with a predator like that rarely feel over so quickly. When an animal like a jaguar disappears into the forest, there's no way to know if it has truly left or if it remains nearby hidden in the shadows. The group quickly started their engine and returned to their campsite, hoping to put some distance between themselves and the animal. Back at camp, they tried to calm themselves and began preparing the fish they had caught earlier that day.
Nossa. E tá cada vez mais perto, tá ouvindo? Cada vez mais perto. Barulho de onça. A gente tá aqui em Laranjal do Jari, no acampamento. A gente ouviu a primeira vez mais longe e agora a segunda vez mais perto.
Then suddenly a disturbing sound cut through the quiet night. The sound of the jaguar seemed to be getting closer, slowly moving toward their campsite in the darkness of the forest. It raises the possibility that the animal may have followed them back, keeping its distance because several people were gathered near the camp. They understood that staying quiet was extremely important. If a jaguar was nearby, moving into the forest to escape could be extremely dangerous. In certain parts of the world, people can unexpectedly encounter powerful predators, such as jaguars, leopards, or even lions. These animals are highly skilled hunters, fast, strong, and incredibly silent. In the wild, they're capable of attacking before someone even realizes what is happening. Fortunately, in this situation, the jaguar kept its distance. When morning finally arrived, they were able to leave the area safely. If you were camping deep in the forest, after coming face to face with a jaguar earlier that night, would you stay until morning or leave the moment you heard it moving somewhere in the trees? That's it for tonight. Which moment creep? Drop it in the comments. Have your own story, share it with us, and stay tuned. The next one is even darker.